Каждый вторник в 12:10 один из самых известных раввинов нашего времени, Маниса Фридман, в прямом эфире отвечает на вопросы наших слушателей. Вы услышите мнение самой мудрой книги человечества – Библии, о самых сложных проблемах, стоящих перед современным миром. Присылайте ваши вопросы заранее на наш имейл info@rusa.fm или во время передачи по СМС 347 460 08 77.
В эфире передача Thank God it's Tuesday. Здравствуйте всем. Очень рада всех приветствовать. Наконец-то вот этот самый любимый час всей недели мой, по крайней мере, наступил, потому что в этом часе мы имеем шанс пообщаться с совершенно необыкновенным раввином нашего времени, раввином Манисом Фридманом, который вносит свет в этот мир всем, с кем только он общается, на всех каналах, на которых он существует. И нам вот безумно повезло, что есть канал у нас, на который он тоже согласен выходить. И вот сейчас мы находимся весь этот месяц в преддверии еврейского Нового года. Это серьезный месяц для всех евреев, и не только, вообще-то для всего мира, потому что на самом деле праздновать мы будем сотворение мира, а не еврейский Новый год, как все думают. И очень много чего имеет смысл переосмыслить, то есть как бы вот подводим итоги всего года, и такое серьезное, меняется вся энергия мироздания. И вот сейчас мы хотим понять, вот почему мы все одинаково хотим быть лучше. Это абсолютно, я думаю, тут мы все едины. Но почему не у всех у нас это так получается, как бы нам этого хотелось? Вот с этим вопросом я срочно же перехожу к раввину Манису Фридману. Rabbi Manis Fridman, hello, thank God it's Tuesday. Amazing to have you on the radio. It's a privilege and a pleasure. And the question that I just addressed to our audience, that we are in the month right before, as people think, the Jewish New Year, but really it's everybody's New Year. We're celebrating the creation of the world. So it's everybody's time. And we're kind of analyzing the entire year. Well, at least that's what we should be doing right now, thinking, kind of thinking about what we've done, what we wanted to do, what we have accomplished, what we were not so successful at. And I think that everybody is absolutely in agreement that everybody would like to be better. Everybody would like to be better, do better, and yet something is stopping us. Can you please explain to us this phenomenon that we want to do better, but something is in the way? What is in the way? What can possibly interfere with our progress?
Oh, there can be many things, but I think the first thing is habit. Once you get into a habit, your mind doesn't accept change. It needs to be justified. So the biggest obstacle to change is, why all of a sudden? That question that the brain says, why all of a sudden? If it was good without it until now, or this is not you, so why would you become it? Just be yourself. And yourself means whatever you were until now, which is not true, but that's what it feels like. So the first thing is you have to convince yourself that the change that you're going to make is the real you, not you're becoming someone else. Because then the question is, why do you want to be somebody else? And can you be somebody else? You're not becoming somebody else. You're getting closer to who you are, not further. And that's why you have to be careful when you make a New Year's resolution. What are you thinking? That you're going to become something you weren't? It's not going to happen. You can't be what you're not. And if you try to fake it, you eventually fail and you pay the price. You're not trying to be something you're not. And that's why, as you say, everyone knows how to be better. No one needs to tell us. So why do I want to do what I hope to do? Because that's the real me, and I feel like I'm missing it if I don't do it. I'm missing the real me. So it's not like I'm going to change, I'm going to become a different person, I'm going to turn over a new leaf, I'm going to develop nothing new. The real you. The real you is better than you've been, because there's more to you than you have experienced or shown until now. The other thing is, this is what the year means. A year begins and ends, and a new year begins. That's to give us a good excuse to make changes. Like, why all of a sudden? It's a new year. And if it's a new year to the creator of the world, it really is a new, right? Well, then I can certainly justify making change. And we often say this to children. See, yet last year you were just 5, but now you're 6. A 6-year-old doesn't wet their bed. A 6-year-old doesn't hit his sister. So you use the year, the change of even season, as a catalyst for change. You can do the same thing with a month. A new month, the moon is born again, you can make changes. You can do the same for a week. That was last week. This is a new week. In fact, the Hebrew word for year is shana, very close to the Hebrew word for change, shinui. The Hebrew word for month is chodesh, very close to the Hebrew word for new, which is chodesh. There are some people, really great people, who not only does every year mean a change for the better, and every month means a change for the better, and every week, every Shabbos, is a change for the better, every hour. There are such people. Every hour they get better. Because again, God created time in pieces, so that you can't say, an hour ago I didn't do this, why would I do this now? So that was a different hour. Every hour is independent. It's a new hour. A new independent time means you're independent and you can go from one habit to another habit. You're not stuck. But if I may ask you how you spent your week.
I'll be very, very happy to share. I would be very happy to share. And first of all, we'll start with gratitude. Gratitude for something that you have created many, many years ago, which is an organization called Beis Hana. An organization, as I understand it, that is named in the honor of Rabbi Menachem Mendel, his mom's name, and I understand that it also got a blessing from the rabbi, and it's a blessing to all the women who are looking for the real deal, for being real, which is actually, I would like to ask that question in a second after I say that this every year that I go to Beis Hana to connect with amazing women from all over and hear the wisdom from extremely knowledgeable and spiritual teachers who are just there to spread the light, and that is the most amazing time of the year where we can learn, get together, connect, get the light, and then go our separate ways to spread the light. Thank you. I would say it's a school of good. It's a school where we learn to be good and where we can then teach others to also be better. So this is actually one of the reasons for this program, because the concept of what is real, what is the real me? Because we've been born into a world that is not so real, which seems real because we don't know anything better than this, or other than this. I wouldn't even say better. And then you're saying, well, become the real you. So how do people know what is the real me?
So we had 6 days of Beis Chana. You were there for 3 days?
Yes.
4 days?
For Shabbat. Well, the 4 days, including Shabbat.
Yeah. So one of the things we spoke about, which I think turns everything upside down, which is the right way, turns everything right side up, right? We talked about a tzaddik. What is a tzaddik? What is a holy person? We're talking about the Rebbe. People have a hard time with the idea that a tzaddik is without sin, without the capacity to sin, without the temptation to sin, and therefore not only doesn't sin, but can't sin. Usually they're born that way. Exceptional souls. People have a hard time. Nobody can be that good. No one can be that perfect. No one can be that whole. No one. Where does this assumption come from? So if we want to know what's real, like you're asking, what is really true, there are 2 ways that we explore and seek the truth. One is from the bottom up. You start from the bottom and you try to work your way up. So I know that I am real. This I know for sure. I know that the table I'm sitting at is real. I know that the chair I'm sitting on is real. Because I can see it, I can touch it, I can measure it, I can weigh it, I can destroy it. It's real. Then I try to figure out, where did it come from? Okay, that's a little theoretical. It's still real, but a little mysterious. How am I supposed to know where it came from? I have to do some detective work. I have to follow the trail. Okay. Then I ask, why? Why does it exist? Why is there a table? So, now you're getting too philosophical. Too philosophical because this is not something you can touch, not something you can measure. So it's not so real. And that's why people think you can come up with any theory you want. Who knows which one is right? It's an open field. It's like, then you ask, and who decided that it should be here? Say, okay, now forget about it. Now you're not talking reality at all. Now you're in outer space. So the higher you go, trying to find the origins and the more unreal it becomes. Until it just stops existing. You're just saying words that don't mean anything. Like, God created the world. You have no idea what that means even. What's God? Who's God? Where did he come from? You have no idea. Okay, this is not real. That's one way. The other way is the opposite direction. Start from the top and work your way down. The table is not real. What makes it real? So start at the beginning. In the beginning, there was only God. There was one true, essential being that always is and will always be. Okay, and then what happened? There was only him. And he created a world. Well, if he created the world, shouldn't it look like him? Shouldn't it feel like him? Shouldn't it sound like him? He created it. So, when we say there is a tzaddik, he is like God, he sounds like God, he looks like God, whatever that means, because he's a product of God. Oh, then I have no questions. But then you tell me there are also people who are very bad. Not like God at all. They don't sound like God, they don't act like God, they don't talk like nothing. I say, well, wait, how did that happen? Where did that come from? You have children, they should look like you. Otherwise, we have questions. Why don't your children look like you? What happened here? So what is more sensible and less mysterious, and what is less sensible and more mysterious? The table is a complete mystery. It doesn't look like God, it doesn't sound like God, it doesn't taste like God. How did this happen? Oh, that person is a tzaddik? Well, that makes sense. He sounds like God, he talks like God, he thinks like God. That makes sense. Doesn't need any explanation. So, you see, if you want to find truth, you start at the beginning. If you start from the bottom and work your way up, it doesn't work, because if you assume that what I see is real and what I don't see is not, you're never going to find what's true. Start with the beginning, which has to be true, and then see what happened. And that's why in Kabbalah we have this whole theory and explanation of tzimtzum. God kept himself hidden, he didn't reveal himself, he's hiding his face, and that's why there can be a table that doesn't look like him. And there are people who don't sound like him. But you need an explanation. For the existence of a tzaddik, you don't need any explanation. There's no tzimtzum, there's no hiding, there's no mystery. God created something, so it's like him. How should it be? The question is, how does God create something and it's not like him? It's like, there are good kids and there are bad kids. There are bad kids. Don't get upset about that. There are kids who are very close to their parents, and there are kids who rebel against their parents. Which one makes more sense, and which one is more mysterious? Of course, a child who rebels against his parents, that's mysterious. What happened? Your parents gave you life, raised you, fed you, took care of you, provided for you. What are you rebelling? What are you hating? Where is this hate coming from? Fine, so you go to psychology, and the psychologist will come up with deep explanations as to what happened that made your child rebel against you. But you need a very deep explanation because it doesn't make sense. Whereas the child who doesn't rebel, nobody talks about him. Why? It doesn't need any explanation. You love your parents. That's perfectly normal. Unfortunately, normal and common are not the same thing. You think the normal would be more common. When the world gets very messed up, the abnormal becomes more common. And then we start calling that normal. A kid who rebels against parents, it's a mystery. What happened? Same thing with creation. If all begins with one creator, why do some things not resemble the creator at all? For that, we have lots of explanations. But then there's the tzaddik who needs no explanation. So the godliness within us doesn't need explanation. That's the real us. The real us that hasn't drifted from the original truth. God is true. There's something godly in us. That part of us is true. How do you get closer to that part of you? And why do you have to get closer? Because for the first 12 years of a girl's life and the first 13 years of a boy's life, you didn't know much about this godly part of you. And all you did is feed and pamper the non-godly part, the physical, the self, the ego. When you become a little more mature, then it's time to think or look past yourself to get to your real self. The real self is that which has not changed from its creator, which on a human level means you look like your parents, you sound like your parents, you feel like your parents, you're close. You haven't been alienated. You haven't strayed. And in the bigger picture, you're God's creation. So you have godly feelings, godly thoughts, godly impulses, which makes perfect sense. In fact, all of you should be godly. So every mitzvah we do, a mitzvah means something God likes, which we would never have imagined. If he didn't tell us, we would never have guessed. God likes us to separate the meat and the milk. Who would have thought of that? Who would have ever guessed such a thing? Knowing that that's what he wants, if I do that, I'm closer to him. And that's with every mitzvah. Some mitzvahs make very, very common sense. If you see a hungry person, feed him. Why? That's what God does. So when you feed the hungry person, you're acting like God. Just don't become God. God makes people die, so I should also. No. Do what he asks you to do, not what he doesn't ask you to do.
Rabbi Fridman, you said that we can't change because it's habitual, because of the habits. That's what we started with. And do you have any suggestions of how habits can be broken? And why are they so hard to break?
I once asked a very, very smart teacher, which I was blessed with many of them. One of them, I asked this question about not smoking. How does a smoker stop smoking? Today, people can't even relate to that question. Who smokes? But there was a time when people were very, very addicted. He said something very simple, very true. The only way to stop smoking is by convincing yourself that one puff on a cigarette is evil. And that's hard. One puff? Or even one cigarette a day? Come on. So everybody agrees over smoking, chain smoking. Oh yeah, bad. No, I don't want to do that. So don't. I have no intentions of chain smoking. I just had a cigarette. One cigarette. 2 hours later, I forgot already the cigarette now I just want to have one cigarette. And 2 hours later, I just want one cigarette. And all of a sudden, I'm chain smoking. And that's why dieting is so hard. You want to stop smoking? Convince yourself that one cigarette is absolutely unacceptable, and you'll stop. But what do you do with food? You can't convince yourself that everything you eat is evil. You have to discipline yourself that you don't overeat. That's hard. Because once you start, how much is too much? The same thing with drinking. Excuse me. Drinking or drugs. Of course I don't want to overdose. What, am I crazy? And I don't want to be drunk. A little drink. If you're not convinced that one drink is evil, you will not stop drinking. So, a man said, we talked about this while you were here at the Beis Chana. A man says, I have to admit, I hit my wife. Not proud of it, but I hit my wife because I lost control. She got me so angry. I lost control. And it's terrible. But when I lose control, I do things I shouldn't do. So, yes, I hit her. I said to him, did you hit her with a brick? With a stone? With a bat? He said, oh, don't be crazy. Even while he lost control, he would never hit her with a brick. That's crazy. So, did he lose control? When he hit her, was he out of control? Obviously not, because he wouldn't think of hitting her with a stone. So what happened? Not you lost control. You gave yourself permission to hit her with your hand, but not with a stone. So you're a disciplined person. You have a lot of self-control. So why did you hit her with your hand? That's not terrible. It's not so terrible. So in his anger, he gave himself permission to hit her. He didn't lose control. You want to not do that again? Then convince yourself that hitting with the hand, even one time, is absolutely horrendous, unforgivable, unjustified, and then you won't do it, just like you would not hit her with a stone. Why won't you hit her with a stone? Well, because that's not acceptable. So what made hitting with a hand acceptable? But let's take it a step further.
Yeah.
What made getting angry acceptable?
That's the one. I was going to ask that it seems like our society is addicted to anger, aggression, fear, negativity. It seems that these seem to be things that people are addicted to, and they want to stop, but for some reason they can't.
Well, the newest addiction is hurt.
Another one.
We're addicted to hurt. You hurt me. And therefore, I'm justified in whatever I do. Just like you got me angry, so of course I'm going to hit you. What'd you expect? It's your fault. Next time, don't get me angry. It's so self-righteous. So why, really, why are we not ashamed to say I lost my temper? I got angry. Oh, I got angry. You're not ashamed? I stole the watch. Well, of course I stole the watch. Made me jealous. I got jealous that you have the watch and I don't, so I stole it, of course. Next time, don't make me jealous. No one says that. Because jealousy, not so easy to explain. But anger? Anger seems to be kosher. Who made it kosher? I would never admit that I was greedy. I'll never admit that I was petty. I'll never admit that I was in lust. But anger, of course. Of course I hit her. She got me angry. Don't you see? Don't you understand? No, I don't understand how you hit her. I don't even understand how you got angry and you're not embarrassed. Anger is not a weakness. Just like jealousy and pettiness. Why are you not ashamed to say, I got angry? Because in your brain you justified it. So if you want to stop getting angry, you have to treat it as unacceptable as hitting with a brick. So if you want to change a habit, you got to convince yourself that even a little bit of this habit is completely unacceptable. And it is. It really is. Like, why are having 3 ice creams not good? 3? No one should eat 3 ice creams at a time. Why? Why? 1 is okay, 2, but 3, no. Oh, why? So people say, oh, it's too much of a good thing. There is never too much of a good thing. If it's good, it just gets better the more you do it, the more you practice it. Too much of good? There's never too much of good. So why are 3 ice creams not good? Because the first one is not so good to begin with. But if it's just that one, you can justify, the pleasure of the ice cream makes up for the fact that it's unhealthy and it's indulgent and it's whatever. 2, all right, maybe you can get away with it. But 3, which means the little bit of not good that is in the first ice cream is what becomes too much by the 3rd. It's too much of a bad thing. The good part never gets bad. So the same with everything. One cigarette is bad. Yeah, why are 10 cigarettes bad? How does a good thing become bad? Just by doing it 10 times, good becomes bad? The only reason 10 cigarettes is bad is because the first one was a little bad, and now you have 10 times that little bad. So getting angry is okay as long as you don't hit? No. Getting angry comes from arrogance. It comes from entitlement. All bad. All bad.
Rabbi Fridman, some people say, well, I need to get angry at myself to make a change. You hear that a lot, I'm sure. Is there motivational anger?
It's called anger. But it's not. It's disappointment. When you say to a child, I'm disappointed. Child does something and you say, oh, I'm disappointed. That is a powerful motivator. So powerful that some of the experts say, don't ever say that to your child. It's devastating. I said, well, it can be very productively devastating. Much more than just love bombing. So yeah, if you become like seriously, truthfully disappointed in yourself, that's kind of like being angry with yourself. But that's not a negative habit that's going to become too much. Disappointed in yourself will always lead to improvement. Embarrassment does not. I'm embarrassed of myself. Not good. A little bit maybe, but as soon as it becomes more, more often, it destroys you. It's not good. So a father who embarrasses his kid, thinking that that'll make him better, it doesn't. So there's a big difference between I'm disappointed in you or I'm going to embarrass you. A father's disappointment is very motivating. A father's shaming you, horrible.
Rabbi Fridman, those two are not easily, it's hard to tell them apart. It's very hard to tell which one is which.
Yeah. The person who says I'm disappointed with myself can very easily say I'm embarrassed by what I am, or it's easily mistaken. But also people say I'm so disappointed in myself. They're not. They think they should be, but they're not. So nothing is going to change.
But there are people who are actually suffering from the fact that they want to but cannot. Just can't get into a better state of mind.
What are they doing about it? If you can't do it by yourself, get some help. You didn't look for help? You don't really want to. It's another subtle mistake that we make. If I know I should, I'm convinced that I should, then it seems like I want to. I don't want to. I know I should. I don't want to. But we confuse the two. If I know I should and I admit that I should, doesn't that mean that I want to? No. It means you wish you wanted to. You ought to want, but you don't want. Another story, I think we could end with this one. Somebody wrote to the Rebbe saying, I heard or read in the Rebbe's teachings that we must always be happy. But it doesn't apply to me because I am so bad. I have nothing to be happy about. The Rebbe answers him that the only way to serve God is by being happy. Just by being happy alone, you're already serving God, and therefore, no matter how bad you are, you should be happy. He writes back to the Rebbe. He says, Rebbe, if you knew how bad I was, you would not tell me to be happy. The Rebbe writes back, I doubt whether you know how bad you are. And I'm still telling you have to be happy. The Rebbe wouldn't let go. But what does it mean? I doubt you know how bad you are. The man is telling you, I'm very, very bad. Why would you assume that he doesn't know how bad he is? That's a nasty assumption. And of course, when the Rebbe says, I doubt, he means I'm sure. I'm sure you don't know how bad you are. It's just being polite. How does he know that the man is unaware of how bad he is? Because if he knew how bad he was, he would stop. It would be over. When people say, I'm so bad, you have no idea how bad you are. And the proof is, you've been kvetching about it like for 2 years already. So you don't know how bad you are, because when a person realizes how bad it is, he stops. He stops. Like the guy who hit his wife. If you realize that hitting with a hand is just as bad as hitting with a stone, you would stop. So people think, since I know I should change, I know I should stop, I'm convinced that it's wrong, doesn't that mean I want to change? No. It means you wish you wanted to change. So let's not confuse ourselves. And that's why we need to learn, we need clarity, we need clear thinking, we need a little bit of objectivity so that we can see ourselves truthfully. But we can do it. We can do it. And we are doing it. People get better. Painfully slow, but people get better. If we can hurry it up a little bit, which would bring Mashiach a little faster, that would be nice.
Rabbi Friedman, thank you again so much for the vote of positivity that we're doing it and we can do it, and hopefully that is the message that everybody is getting right now from this conversation, and this is the best opportunity to make changes. We're, 9 days away from the beginning, and that's a really, really good place to start. Thank you so much for your time. And a little cliffhanger, hopefully everything goes well. Maybe next Tuesday, which is right before Rosh Hashanah, you'll be able to tell us what we're in for.
And it is not a surprise anymore that 9 days from now, the world will not be the same. The changes that are happening are so rapid, not the same world. but it's exciting.
Certainly is. And thank you so much. And thank you for helping us see it, Rabbi Friedman. Have a wonderful week and looking forward to hopefully summarizing this year next Tuesday. Thank you so much. Ну, а всем, кто нас слушал, большое всем спасибо. Спасибо, что вы с нами. Спасибо, что вам хочется лучшего. Вы стараетесь быть лучше. Учитесь, как это делать. Ну, а когда вы получаете эту информацию, вы ее дальше раздаете. Вот и есть смысл вот этого времени на радио USA. Спасибо всем. До следующей недели.